Welcome back to Babylon 5 versus Deep Space Nine, the greatest podcast about the two great 90s space station shows. But today we're going to talk about the Suicide Squad movie. And in some ways, this will be the most disagreeable episode of this podcast I will ever have to record because I have to open it by begrudgingly saying to my co host and nemesis, Matt, all right, you were right, I was wrong, the movie is good, grumble, grumble, grumble.
In your face! In your face!
This is the lowest point in my life.
Yeah. I told you it was a good movie. You didn't believe me. Have you watched Deadpool 2 yet?
Hell no, and I never will.
Bitch, watch Deadpool 2. You'll like it as well.
No, I won't.
You
Deadpool
will
is
love...
awful. I hate Deadpool.
This is the same crap. Same crap. It's like, you didn't want to watch The Suicide Squad. Now you're like, oh, it's actually a good movie. I like this. It's not a traditional superhero film. Deadpool 2, you will like...
Oh,
you will
this
not, you,
totally is a traditional superhero film.
You'd hate Deadpool 1. I know you will not. If you'd hate Deadpool 1, you'd love Deadpool 2.
But the thing is I like the Suicide Squad as a concept. I'm just burnt out on superhero movies.
You like X-Men too. You're all into X-Men and X-Force and everything like that. Deadpool 2 is basically an X-Force movie.
Yeah, I like superhero comics. I'm very burnt out on superhero movies because they're all the same. There's just amusing variations on the formula, which the Suicide Squad was an amusing variation on the formula. But I hate, like, Deadpool as a concept. Like, I loathe the character so intensely.
So there are no so what you're saying is that comic books are all like all unique and stuff, and they don't just copy the same stuff.
I'm saying that there's a lot more potential to do different types of storytelling in monthly comic books than there is in these 2-hour movies that are like all the same plot. They're all the same plot. They just swap the genre trappings around, and then it'd be like, ooh, Winter Soldier's really an espionage movie. Ooh, Ant-Man's really a heist movie. It's like, no, they're really the same movie. They just move around the most superficial trappings, and then annoying people on the internet act like they're wholly different.
Okay, Winter Soldier is way darker, and Ant-Man is kind of funny. So there's the difference.
But it's the exact same type of story. Like, you're never going to see a superhero movie that's like, oh, it's the superheroes bullshitting, or oh, it's the superheroes doing an unconventional mode of storytelling. It's always just going to be, oh, there's a huge threat, we have to unite, also I have daddy issues. That's the only thing you can do in a superhero movie. There's no other way to do it.
Well, speaking of that plot, let's move into this plot of this story, which is just what you described. Here we go. All right, so if you haven't watched Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad, if you've not watched this film, spoilers, we're going to be talking about everything involved with the Suicide Squad, so if you haven't watched it, do so now.
All right, so who was your favorite major character, Matt?
I love Peacemaker. Peacemaker was awesome.
Why do you like Peacemaker so much?
Because John Cena's pretty funny. I didn't think John Cena was going to be that funny, but he's hilarious.
Do you think John Cena knows he's being funny? And this will be a common theme in my questions today, but do you think John Cena knows he's being funny? Or do you think John Cena thinks Peacemaker is sincerely DC's greatest hero?
Bob, it's all a work. It's all a work. John Cena knows he's funny. He knows he gets money from it. That's why he does it.
Is John Cena's personality a work? I don't know if it is.
Yes, it's all work. It's all one big work.
I mean, I hate it, but I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know, man. If it's a work, it's a hell of a good work. I'll say that.
Bob, if there was like a pie chart of my life, 40% of it would be like wrestling knowledge. 20% would probably be like Star Trek, science fiction. And then 40% would be like education related junk. Okay, so does that come out? I think that comes out to be 100. If not, sorry. But anyway,
this is the man you entrust with teaching your children.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So anyway, I'm just telling you, I know a work when I see a work. John Cena is a work.
What about your vast experience in education teaches you to spot a work?
I just told you, whatever percentage I told you a minute ago, that's my wrestling knowledge. I've watched a whole lot of wrestling.
I'm just rubbing you the wrong way, or trying to at least.
Bob, some of us try to make careers out of things that that we went to school for.
Hey man, I have a career. It's just a very poorly paid one.
Yeah, same with me. I don't know where I was going with that. Okay, anyway. I think I just wanted to. I think I wanted to try to take a jab at you, but it didn't quite work out that way. It was just kind of like mean. Sorry
I
about that,
mean,
Bob.
you're
Sorry
so
about that,
poor,
Bob.
Bob. Yes, Matt. I'm
Yeah, you're
aware
right.
I'm
But I'm so
poor.
poor too. We're both working like 4 jobs. I mean, on top of this, we can only like record on a Saturday morning because we're both like doing shit all the time. So
Yes, I have three part-time jobs. I think I've said this on the podcast. None of them should exist.
yeah, yeah. See, so we're all in the same boat together.
Oh God. All right.
It's like
Yeah, I
that's
would.
my immediate comeback. It's like you're poor, Bob. I don't need to listen to you. I don't care what you think about the Suicide Squad. You're poor. I'm poor too, but it doesn't matter.
You only care when I'm admitting you're right. As soon as I go back to challenging, it's just that poor son of a bitch is
Yeah.
talking
Why do I
again.
care what that man? He doesn't make any money.
If his opinion was worth anything, they would pay him for it.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you'd like to join our Patreon,
Patreon.com.
all right. Anyway, so all right, my favorite was Peacemaker. I just like the character. I like John Cena. I think John Cena's actually a pretty good actor. Honestly, I mean, I know it doesn't. He looks like a meathead, but come on, he's just
What else has he been in?
he's been in like the Fast and the Furious movies. He's been in several like comedy films where he
Oh
plays.
yeah, he
I
was in
think
an Amy Schumer movie, wasn't he? Like Trainwreck.
yeah, Trainwreck, and he
I
was in
didn't
this.
actually see that, but I heard he was pretty funny in it.
Yeah, he's not quite at the Rock's level yet, but he'll probably end up there at one point.
Who do you think will be our president first, The Rock or John Cena?
Oh, the Rock.
Yeah, yeah, he'll be our first minority Republican president. I can feel it.
Somebody like either agreed or disagreed with you in the background there.
Yeah, sorry, homeless dude is having a schizophrenic episode. He's almost off the block.
So you, so do you live with the homeless people, Bob, or do you have your own place?
I mean, it's Seattle, Matt. We all live with the homeless people. It's really a tragedy that we can't just provide people housing.
It's kind of sad. It's very sad.
Yeah, it's not as bad as San Francisco, but it's pretty close up here. It's really ridiculous. Like just
I'm sorry your cost of living is way higher than the actual money you make.
so it goes. So it goes. Sorry, where were we?
Who's your favorite character in Suicide Squad,
The
Bob?
Suicide Squad, more like the American economy. Am I right,
Yeah.
folks? So my favorite character, I was a little torn. I could go with Bloodsport. I could go with Ratcatcher 2. I could go with Starro the Kaiju. All of these were very fun.
Yeah. Did you watch Suicide Squad, their other one?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I actually saw it in the Cinerama, which was a big theater here that's since closed. They have like a huge screen. Saw it with my friend Alex. We had a grand time. I mean, we both admit that it's a really stupid movie, but we had a grand time.
Good. Yeah. I was just curious because to me, Bloodsport. I'll talk about this a little later on, but Bloodsport to me, it's just like Will Smith light. So
Oh, he is, but the difference is that Idris Elba is a much more interesting actor than Will Smith. That said, I mean, yeah, totally. He's just a reprise of Deadshot. Although I have to admit, I love Deadshot as a character, and I'm not a big Will Smith fan. But when I watched the first Suicide Squad movie, you do have to give it to Will Smith. It's like, damn, this guy does have movie star charisma, and he is incredibly likable. Even though I didn't really like the version of Deadshot he was doing.
yeah, he also seems to play like the same character though in all his movies.
Oh yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, like Will Smith and Tom Cruise are probably the two Hollywood stars with like the most narrow and fixed personas, I would say.
So, who was your favorite minor character?
Oh man, I fucking loved Weasel. So did my friends that I watched this with. Such a good gag. I'm so glad they resurrected him in the mid-credit scene. I didn't remember him at all. Apparently, he's a minor Firestorm villain, but in Batman number 666, he is mentioned as one of Damian as an adult Batman's villains.
Mm. Yeah, mine was that TDK guy. That was hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, that was a hoot. Had you ever heard of him as Arm Fall Off Boy?
No, no, I hadn't. But it was hilarious when he was like getting his arms. It was hilarious when they were beating up his arms or like tearing apart his arms, and he was like dying over in the corner. That to me that scene was hilarious, and as
Yeah,
sadistic as that
yeah.
sounds.
They modified it a little. Like in the comics, I don't think he has telepathic or telekinetic control over his arms, but um, yeah, he's like a reject from the Legion of Superheroes. It was a very funny gag.
Yeah, he reminds me of like stupid action figures, like they used to like shoot off their arms. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good connection. That's a good connection. Of these like minor characters and gag characters, how many of them were like new to you?
Honest to God, most of them were like when they first released the trailer for the film. I went back and looked at the characters and I looked them all up and I kind of looked at their origin stories and I knew a couple of them, but I, not a lot. I mean, unless you really read the Suicide Squad, I guess you're not gonna be too familiar with them. Or if you read like some, because these are characters that are disposable. I mean, that they're never really gonna return to. So
Yeah, well, I think most of these characters had been in the Suicide Squad at some point, and like some of them, like I have read Suicide Squad comics with Weasel. I just didn't remember at all. I don't think the Weasel in the DC comics is exactly the same as the movie Weasel anyway. But that said, like a lot of them are just more like I think Arm Fall Off Boy or TDK wasn't really a Suicide Squad character. I'm not sure if Mongol was, but there were three I'd never heard of. Blackguard, Weasel, and Mongol were all new to me. Although I wouldn't necessarily have recognized like Savant visually or TDK visually until it became clear like who they were. Did you
yeah,
catch that cameo with the Calendar Man?
I did see him. Yeah, but unfortunately, I had no one I could point it out to while I was watching the film because I was like, unless you have like a pretty good knowledge of comic book characters, you're like, oh yeah, there's Calendar Man. Look at that. Look right there. It's not like the Joker or
Yeah.
somebody
I
might recognize.
I cooked some chili and had three of my friends over, and so I got to expound a lot about like the two different blood sports and or blood shots or whatever his name is, and how great Amanda Waller is. Although I have to give it up, my boy Noah actually was the one who recognized Calendar Man. I didn't notice it.
Yeah, when they mentioned that Bloodsport was pretty much replacing Deadshot in this film, like I immediately remember that cover of it was with Superman with a mullet, but it has Bloodsport on the cover with his like orange hoodie thing or whatever he wore, and
Mm-hmm.
like has
Mm-hmm.
he's shooting a gun at the reader. I was like, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
one
It's
appearance
kind
he
of
made.
wild if listeners aren't aware. There were like two blood sports who were like Superman villains in the late 80s, early 90s. One was a Vietnam vet and a black guy. That's the one Idris Elba was playing, obviously. He was a little bit of a black nationalist, as I
Hmm.
recall. Whereas the white guy was like a fucking Ku Klux Klan guy,
Yeah.
and it was now that I think about it, I didn't think of anything of it when we were like 8, but now that I think about it, it was a little objectionable the way they were like paralleling black and white nationalism like
Yeah,
that.
and then one of the comics I know, if I remember correctly, like they end up both in prison and they end up fighting each other. Isn't that like one of the issues that comes
Yeah,
shortly after that?
yeah,
One of them
yeah.
dies too. I don't remember which one.
Oh yeah, I can't remember either.
He gets
Yeah.
stabbed. Uh,
Who knew when we were reading those silly comics as kids that one day Idris Elba would play Bloodshot in the nation's or Bloodsport in the nation's biggest film?
yeah, it's so annoying. I was talking about my brother about this too because I was like, all the stuff from our childhood would have been so cool had it been like there when we were younger. And now it's like we're older and we're watching it. We're like, oh yeah, that's cool. I remember those two guys. Oh yeah, and you just sound like a grandpa talking about it. Like it's like they're making a
Wild.
snake. They're making a Snake Eyes GI Joe movie. I mean, what the hell? Snake Eyes was literally a GI Joe that they didn't have enough money to like put anything on, so they just painted one blue, and that was
Oh, I
Snake
didn't, I
Eyes.
didn't realize that. That's funny.
That was Snake Eyes, and he was the ninja. That was it. They're just now he's gonna be in he's a leading man in a movie. He's a leading movie with his GI Joe origins thing. Like, my whole childhood just all up in the film. I don't like it.
Oh man. So, who was your least favorite character from this movie, Matt?
I'm gonna get crap for this, but I did not really care for King Shark. I don't know
The
what
hell's
the
your problem?
I don't know what the buzz is about him. I didn't care for him. Yeah, I get it, Sylvester Stallone, but it was just
He's a
Groot.
shark, Matt. There's nothing to get. He's a shark.
It was Groot 2.0. Maybe because I know the origin of King Shark from the Superboy days.
They explicitly mention his origin from the Superboy days, that he's descended from the shark god.
I know, Bob. I know. I that's what I'm saying. I just remember him then. I just didn't like him then. I don't like him now. I just didn't care for him.
Oh man, I loved King Shark. King Shark was great. For me, like I really hate John Cena, but I mean he was playing a really good douche as Peacemaker, so it's like you kind of love to hate it. So I guess I will go with Peacemaker. So Matt, I didn't watch the Watchmen miniseries for principled reasons. Is there any influence in the way they do like Peacemaker stuff and, or I guess comedian stuff in the Watchmen miniseries on how they have John Cena playing the Peacemaker here?
They're two completely different characters. Like, I couldn't compare the comedian to John Cena or to Simi
Okay.
Peacemaker. They're not. They're yeah. Sorry, I don't, there's no rule. You need
Well,
to.
I
That's
mean,
oh, wait. That's another thing you need to damn watch. Watch the Watchmen miniseries.
no, I'm not going to
See,
watch the Watchmen
God,
miniseries.
it's so good, and you're not going to watch it.
Yeah, because it shouldn't exist.
Who get? Neither should any of these other films we're watching. But what they do. The
No,
Watchmen
like
mini was good.
I don't care if it was good. It's annoying. Like you don't need a sequel to Watchmen. I don't even like Watchmen that much anymore. It's been ruined for me by like all these awful film adaptations and
But it's like
like
it's too
comics and
mainstream.
crossovers.
It's too
No, it's just
mainstream.
it's not that it's too mainstream. It's just that there's no point, and that it's that like if you want to do something that responds to Watchmen, like DC owns all the characters that Watchmen are ripoffs from, and you should just use them. Like use the Peacemaker to do it. You don't have to. You don't have to like shit on Alan Moore to.
I like it when it was just me that knew about it.
I don't. Nah, I don't care. Like if that were my principle, I wouldn't enjoy the Suicide Squad movie, but I enjoyed the Suicide
Yeah,
Squad
but I had to
movie.
like pull your damn teeth to get you to watch it.
Yeah, because like I'm sorry. Are you excited for all the Marvel movies that are coming out next year, Matt? Like it's too much. It's too much.
No, but Disney Plus is getting on my nerves, like releasing these films the way they are. This is relevant, I promise you. But like, did you read the thing about Black Widow?
The ScarJo is suing because they're
Yeah,
screwing her on the. Yeah. Good for her.
yeah. I'm like that's. Why would they do that? Why would they like screw her out of money when this is like that's a pretty big
Because
time
it's.
movie, like to release. First. Well, I see Captain Marvel really messed things up. Black Widow should have been first, like as far as female lead
Oh yeah, no, they should have
Marvel
made
movies.
Black Widow like 10 years ago.
Right. And I wouldn't watch it. It's actually a pretty good film, but you're right, it does follow the same like exact same plot trend that you mentioned earlier. So
Well, I think the reason they're screwing her over is, I mean, not to sound too much like a radical left winger, but that there's a fundamental asymmetry of interest between the studios and the stars. And even though the stars, make vastly more money than we will ever make, at the end of the day, they're still just employees. And it's in the interest of the employers, the studios, to screw the employees as much as they can and give them as little as they can. Not just out of like the sort of oh, we can't afford to give ScarJo another 10 million or whatever, but out of the broader principle that, oh, if we have to give ScarJo another 10 million or whatever, then we'll have to give that to the next person too. So it's just, they're just tight-fisted employers, and that's why they're trying to undercut ScarJo, and they would do that to any other actor or actress they could as well.
yeah, but to bring this full circle though, what I'm saying is Disney Plus releases these films like Black Widow, but you have to pay an extra $30 to watch it like when it's in the
Ooh
theater.
boy.
Whereas I appreciate HBO Max and just releasing the film for subscribers without charging me an additional $30 to watch it in my house. You know,
Unquestionably, HBO Max is giving you the better deal. Although, I mean, it is also worth pointing out what the monthly cost of HBO Max is versus Disney Plus or Disney whatever.
guess what? It's free, motherfucker. You wanna know why? Because they bundle with AT
Arg.
and T. They bundle with AT and T.
Maybe not.
Corporations.
Maybe not for too much longer, since apparently AT&T is divesting itself of Warner's.
Corporations connecting together to offer me cool entertainment, so I don't question things.
I mean, I just want to say that the cost of the subscription is already reflected in your AT&T bill, Matt, whether they list it or not.
Bobby, I'm not questioning things. It looks free.
I like how you dropped in our prior episode. You had your Southern white trash accent, but now it got more like New Jersey Italian.
Yeah. It's just gonna keep switching up a little bit. I'm just saying, I appreciate HBO Max doing that. Thank you, HBO, for not charging me an arm and a leg to watch Suicide Squad and anything else DC related. That
All right, so you are going to watch the Peacemaker miniseries then?
yes, why would I not?
I mean, I don't know. It's the Peacemaker. He's one of the worst characters in DC. John Cena's one of the worst wrestlers of all time. I
John
don't
Cena's
know.
not one of the worst wrestlers of all time. You're on a different planet. You have no hustle, flow, loyalty, respect, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't have any of those things. None at all. None at all. All right. I feel like I know what the answer to this is going to be. It's going to be the same as the answer that yes, John Cena is in on the joke. But so is Cy Stallone in on the joke that he's of him playing King Shark?
Yes, it's a work. It's all a work. He knows what he's doing. He got the money. It's Groot 2.0, Bob. Vin Diesel did Groot. Same thing. He got paid truckloads of money to say I am Groot. Sly Stallone got paid truckloads of money to sit in front of a microphone just like we're doing and record like 10 lines.
So, any thoughts on Harley Quinn and Ratcatcher 2 as the two opposed faces of North Atlantic millennial womanhood?
I enjoyed Ratcatcher too. I thought she was kind of funny. She really like does sum up the millennial.
Sleepy, lazy, fond of cute animals, big dad issues. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much all millennials, not just millennial women.
Yeah. Damn millennials. Okay. Just so you know, disclaimer: I don't really feel that way, but I just think that that she fits that whole perception.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man. So, what was your favorite joke?
Okay, that whole scene, I really like the scene where the village of freedom fighters get slaughtered, like where Bloodsport and Peacemaker have that like uh, the dick comparing competition where they're both like shooting people different ways, and trying to like pull off these awesome
Mm-hmm.
shots, and then right at the very end you get that deadpan whole thing where it's like, oh wait a minute, these weren't they didn't actually kidnap Colonel Flag, they actually rescued him.
I do just want to I do just want to complain about your characterization of them as freedom fighters. I don't think any guerrilla group in Latin America that has the full support of the U.S. government can be characterized as freedom fighters. I would say Contras or death squads might be a
Bob,
more accurate
U.S.
term.
is about freedom, and they have the full support of the United States.
Hey,
Freedom.
at least the U.S. Accidentally killed their death squad in this movie, and that was hilarious. I agree. I was also, even though I like this movie a whole lot, I was very annoyed by how much anti-Cuba and anti-Venezuela propaganda it was. Although in the end, it of course did turn out that the U.S. was the big bad, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I think my favorite joke was that James Gunn was trying to top Quentin Tarantino in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with fetishizing Margot Robbie's feet, specifically in that scene where she was escaping. That was pretty funny. Also, in a sort of sexualized vein, the use of Starro for a series of facial gags was pretty amusing. Pretty lowbrow, but pretty amusing. I have to give it up for that.
Yeah, Bob looks too far into this. I didn't notice any of that crap. So you must just have a foot fetish of your own, is what that boils down to. Because I didn't even think about that.
It's a well-known fact that QT has a foot
Yeah, I
fetish,
know
and it
he
shows
does,
up in
but
most of his.
you're just like looking like, oh, there's feet on the screen, so obviously he's making fun of Quentin Tarantino. I didn't even notice her
But it
feet.
was he was using the same actress.
Okay, I'll give it to you, but okay, Bob, you're right. You're right. That's exactly what he was doing there.
Grumble, grumble, grumble.
Right, yeah. And
And he
I'm not even
regrets
saying
that.
anything about your story facial gag. I didn't get that. I think that's just a secret fantasy you have.
Yes, Matt. I've long been wanted to just get pelted in the face by both strange energy and a starfish.
Yes. Looking back at this film, anything you think they could have done differently?
Well, so the only thing I like about Scott Snyder's Justice League run is that he writes Starro as a dirtbag, and I think that would have been funny if Starro had been a bit of a dirtbag. But I can see why they didn't. It didn't really fit like the kaiju theme of Starro. But I would have liked to have seen Dirtbag Starro.
My brother sent me this meme or something, and it was Starro dressed as Robin.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's from that run. That's
Yeah,
also good.
yeah. Just so you guys know, Bob is suggesting you read a comic book where Starro
No, I'm
wears a
not
Robin
suggesting. I'm
outfit.
saying that the I'm
It's
saying that
good.
that liar. No, I'm saying that series is that Justice League run is terrible, but the use of Starro is good. Like I do not like Scott Snyder's Justice League run. I think it's really bad. I do think the use of Starro is funny.
So yeah, Starro becomes Robin or something like that. It's really weird. My brother was asking about it because he's like, "What is this shit? I don't want to read comics ever again." I was like, "Yep, that's right. Scott Snyder turned down one more, turned away one more fan."
Man, you guys are the lamest comics fans ever. Oh, it's something funny and new. I
It's not
hate
funny
it.
and new. It's stupid. Starro's the
I'm
Robin.
sorry. When was the last time a starfish was Batman's sidekick?
I don't know because it's that stupid, Bob. It's like Batcow's kind of funny. Shut up. Never mind. Anyway, shut up. Get back to what we're talking about. All right. The only thing I regret, Idris Elba's Bloodsport, the way he's written is like I said, he's just like Deadshot, and it's not a bad performance at all. The whole thing feels like they couldn't get Will Smith, so they just put him in there.
But he is better at it than Will Smith. No.
I, I mean, I like Idris Elba though, and I do like Will Smith too.
I mean, in an ideal world, it just would have been Idris Elba playing Deadshot from the beginning.
Yeah, I can give you that. Yeah, yeah, but they needed the name Will. They needed Will Smith to carry it though, in that first film.
I mean, I don't know if they did, but they thought they did at
Yeah,
least.
and then the other thing too is to me Waller is like played way too weak in this one. Like when she gets knocked out, I thought that was so stupid.
I could agree that I kind of wish Waller had had more of a role. Like the Wall's a great character, but I don't think I minded it as much as you minded it.
Waller's involvement should have been more in this film. I guess it's because she was so involved with the first one. This one she just kind of like she did all her scenes in maybe a day and was done.
Yeah, yeah. So this was far and away the best DC movie, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, by a long shot.
Yeah, yeah. I can't think of anything that compares to it from the what is it? The DC extended universe is what
The
we're calling it.
DC Extended Universe, the DCEU.
Yeah, yeah. And then were you surprised or a little disappointed that they axed Boomer so early?
I was surprised. Whoa, they already killed Captain Boomerang, but he wasn't missed. He was really obnoxious in the first film, which I mean
Mm-hmm.
that's the intent of the character.
Yeah, I was a little sad just because I really like the character of Captain Boomerang in the comics, but I mean it was well done and like set up the sort of stakes of the movie very well, as it were. So my boy says that the Corto Maltese bar scene is meant to be a direct shot at the bar scene in the first movie, which honestly I don't remember that scene well enough to have an opinion on it. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was a direct diss. There were a couple of scenes in there that were a direct diss.
What were the other ones that came to mind?
Where Bloodsport's talking to his daughter, and you think you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get one of those. You think you're gonna get a Deadshot daughter scene, and really it's completely the opposite. It's like he goes off on her and is cussing and like just being mean as hell. Yeah. Whereas with Deadshot in the first film, it was there was this loving relationship between father and daughter that was the reason he was all into this and which they kind
Yeah,
of touch
yeah.
on later on in the film, but it's nothing like it was in the first one, where the whole reason Deadshot's doing what he's doing is just so he can be with his daughter.
Yeah, yeah, it was much funnier the second time through. So do you want to see the air cut of the original Suicide
Hell,
Squad?
hell no, no. That's one superhero film I do not want to see, and I mean it's not gonna come out, and I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna try to convince you to watch it because I'm not. It's just. Did you watch the Justice League thing,
Oh
recut,
hell
whatever?
no! I saw the original cut, the Whedon cut, and I hated it. Or I didn't hate it, but I thought it was meh. And I have no desire to see the Snyder cut at all, especially since it's so long and it sounds like it's actually not that different. It's like different, but not that different. And it's just so long. No, I would never watch the Snyder cut. I
Yeah.
might watch the Air cut. I mean, if it turned out to be like 6 hours, I definitely wouldn't. That's absurd. But I might watch the
Yeah,
Air cut if they released it.
I watched the Snyder cut. No, it's not worth watching. I don't remember the original Justice League film. I don't remember anything that happened in it. But watching the Snyder cut, I'm just like, okay, I remember certain parts of this were in the original film, but that's it. Nothing really stood out. Nothing was that different. You had a bunch of weird ass scenes that looked like they were pulled straight from the video game
Mm-hmm.
Injustice. It
Mm-hmm.
was just weird shit. And then Jared Leto's Joker. I don't want to see any more of him. So if they do an Ayer cut, I know they're going to be like shoving him in there like as much as they can, and I don't care for him. I think it's stupid. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm not like in love with the Jared Leto Joker, but I don't have like the strong visceral reaction to it that you or a couple of my friends up here have. It's just I don't mind it that much. Yeah, I didn't want to see the Justice League Whedon cut back when it came out, but friends drug me along, and what can I say? I'm a sucker for listening to my friends and watching bad movies. Although sometimes it works out well, like with the Suicide Squad. The last fact I wanted to close out on, which I wasn't aware of until you told me, was that the island nation of Corto Maltese is originally in The Dark Knight Returns. I think in issue 3, like Superman is doing some Reagan-esque right-wing terrorism down there. And then you said it's also where Vicky Vale took war photos in the 1989 Batman movie. And I had forgotten both of those things.
Yeah, she's like flipping through or Joker's flipping through her photos, and he like holds one up, and he's like, "Oh, this is what I like," and it's some like dead body, and it was like she had taken it in the Corto Maltese. Actually, not to that back. Bruce Wayne says, "Oh yeah, I've seen your photos from the Corto Maltese." I mean, how the hell do you get like this random ass island to show up in so many different places? And it,
Well, it's actually an homage to this series of like Italian graphic novels or like adventure novels. I've read a couple; they're really good. I'd like to read the rest of them. I think IDW put out the full set a few years ago. But that the Miller was using the name as a direct homage to that Hugo Pratt series of graphic novels.
well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, do you think this is better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume One to sort of wrap up on that question?
You're comparing apples to oranges. Like I think they're
No, Matt.
both.
I'm comparing superhero films to superhero
No, you're
films.
comparing apples to oranges.
Superhero films to superhero
No, they're
films.
both great films. Uh, Guardians of the Galaxy has a better soundtrack. That's about it. I mean, like they're not the same.
They're both superhero films
No, they're
from the
not.
same director.
No, they're okay, but they're not like you can't compare the two. They're both completely different. No,
They're both superhero films from the same director with very strong soundtracks that feature a team of rogues who originate in a prison.
Guardians of the Galaxy they don't originate in a prison.
They get together in a prison in
That's why it's
Guardians
different.
of the Galaxy.
They start off in a prison in the Suicide Squad. They end up in a prison in the middle of Guardians of the
No,
Galaxy.
the I like both of these movies, but they could not be more similar.
The Suicide Squad have bombs in their brains that are they're gonna be exploded if they don't follow the rules. Nobody's got bombs in the Guardian of the Galaxy's brains.
You're right, Matt. There's no comparison at all. I don't
Completely
even know
different.
why. I don't even know why I wrote this question. I'm not even going to answer this question. You've convinced me that there's just no connection between these two movies directed by the same person with the same scenario originating in prisons. There's just no connection other than all of the six I just listed.
Bob, when did they go into space in Suicide Squad?
Starro comes from space. We see footage of Starro in space on a motherfucking
But when
spaceship.
did they go to? But they don't go to space. The Suicide Squad, they're on Earth.
Your
It's
mom
different.
should go to space.
It's different, Bob. It's different.
All right. So since you've convinced me that this is apparently a totally irrelevant question and that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and The Suicide Squad could not be more different, despite both being superhero movies that start in a prison with standout soundtracks where a ragtag group of outcasts come together as a family. Despite that, they couldn't be more different. So I'll just ask instead, which did you think had a better soundtrack, the first Suicide Squad movie or the second?
Honestly, I don't remember what the music was from the first Suicide Squad, but I think it was better, if I remember correctly.
I think they spent like 2/3 of the budget of the first movie on the soundtrack.
Yeah, I think it was like one music video basically. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the first
Yeah.
movie had the better soundtrack. I couldn't tell you a song from it though, but
They used a lot of like pretty memorable stuff. There was some Rolling Stones. There was a lot of other stuff. I would say though that I think in the second Suicide Squad movie, like they integrated the soundtrack into the storytelling a little better. Whereas, as you said in the first one, it was more just like music video quality. All right. Well, this has been the bonus episode for Babylon 5 versus Deep Space Nine on the Suicide Squad movie. It started with the friendship being repaired, as I admitted to Matt that he was right. it ends with me really sullen, angry, and resentful at Matt for his inability to think comparatively. And yeah, that's been the episode. I'm Bob from Cascadia. You've heard Matt from the Southland. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, guys.